The Old Woman and the Candles. But the story I am about to tell you is something I have no explanation for, and it made me believe that there are things in this world that we still do not understand. I worked in a small grocery store that closed very late at night. Our hours extended until 1 a.m. since we were located in an area that, although not very busy, was the only place where people could go to buy something after the sun went down. During the week, the clientele was not as abundant, but on the weekends there was a slight increase. I had been working at the job for a while, but it was the first time I had worked the night shift. My more experienced co-workers had warned me that strange things happened in the store from time to time. However, I was skeptical and did not pay much attention to them. I remembered well the story of Jose, who one night had seen a black bird, similar to a crow, that landed on one of the carts outside. However, it wasn't just the bird that was disturbing. It was that it had the head of a black cat instead of a normal bird's head. Jose, frightened, had run to the room where the cameras were to check what was happening. He didn't want that strange being to enter the store while he was there. But when he checked the recordings, the cat-headed bird was no longer there. He turned the recording back on, trying to capture the image of the creature. But mysteriously, there was nothing on the recording. Since then, I had never witnessed anything strange until that Wednesday came. It was a dark and stormy night, around 11:30 p.m., and the rain was falling in torrents, creating a monotonous and enveloping rhythm. The lights in the store flickered from time to time, and the sound of the rain on the roof resonated like a lullaby. As I rearranged some products on the shelf, I let myself get carried away by my thoughts. Absorbed in the routine of that day, suddenly the doorbell rang, breaking the silence like thunder in the middle of a storm. I was surprised to see an elderly lady, perhaps 80 or 90 years old, enter. Her presence was disconcerting, not only because of her age, but also because, at that hour, most people her age would already be asleep. The woman advanced slowly, as if each step were a small battle. Her hair, a tangle of gray, fell messily over her shoulders, and her face was furrowed with deep wrinkles that spoke of a life full of stories. She wore a black coat, heavy and soaked, that seemed to be older than she was. She headed straight for the aisle where the candles were, and began to pick up several, one after another, with a determination that disconcerted me. I watched as her trembling hands caressed the candles, as if she recognized something sacred in them. As the minutes passed, I felt more uneasy, as if something in the air had grown thicker. I asked her if she needed help, and she, without looking at me, waved her hand at me to say not to worry, that she could do it herself. Although it seemed strange to me, I decided to leave her alone. However, every time she came back from the aisle with more candles, the feeling of uneasiness intensified. In total, I estimated that she had brought around 50 or 60 candles. I moved a little closer, trying to divert my thoughts from how strange all this was. I couldn't help but wonder what a lady of that age was doing, in the middle of the rain, collecting so many candles. "Excuse me, Mum, but why do you need so many candles at this hour?" I asked her, trying to keep a friendly tone. She turned her gaze to me. Her eyes, a deep blue, seemed to capture the light of the store, while her expression was both intense and melancholic. "I need them, young man," she answered in a trembling voice, as if each word cost a great effort. I didn't quite understand what she meant, but I felt a chill run down my spine. The atmosphere grew heavier, as if the shadows in the corners of the shop were coming to life. I looked around, and for a moment, I thought I saw a dark figure moving in the corner of my vision. But when I turned my head, there was nothing there. The old woman continued her work, ignoring my concerns. At that instant, a flash of lightning illuminated the shop, casting dancing shadows on the walls. I felt trapped in a dream from which I could not wake. The rain continued to beat against the window, the sound mixing with the pounding of my heart. Every time the old woman returned to the hallway, time seemed to lengthen, and I wondered if there was some hidden reason behind her unusual visit. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I decided to intervene again. "Why are the candles so urgent, ma'am?" I insisted, trying to break the spell that had been woven between us. The old woman paused for a moment, her eyes filled with deep sadness. "Each candle holds a memory, a light that lights up in the darkness. Tonight, more than ever, we need to remember it," the old woman said. At that moment, the air became unbreathable. A chill ran down my spine, and the feeling that something was not right intensified. I wondered if I was witnessing a strange ritual, something I could not understand. I wanted to ask her more, but fear took over me. The lady continued to bring candles, and I, feeling that the atmosphere was becoming more and more oppressive, decided to take a step back. I began to look through the products on the counter, trying to distract myself. But my mind kept returning to the old woman and her strange conversation. Then the old lady asked me if I had any more candles, and I was very scared and told her no, but that I would check the storeroom to see if there were any more. I headed to the back of the store, a place that often felt heavy with a thick, stale air. The shelves were filled with products stacked almost chaotically, and I knew every corner of that space. I knew exactly where the candles were, so I hurried to find a box containing about 200. When I returned to the main area, I got the shock of my life. The lights in the store were completely off, and the only light that illuminated the place came from the candles that were distributed throughout the store, creating an almost ritualistic atmosphere. I felt frozen with surprise. It was impossible that in the minute and a half that I had been absent, that old lady could have placed and lit all the candles. Even stranger was that the candles were placed in high places, like above the chambers where the soft drinks were kept. I dare say that it would have taken, even me, several minutes to use a ladder to reach them. I looked around, searching for the old lady, but she had disappeared without a trace. The air became heavy and a feeling of fear settled in my chest. With great fear, I went to the room where the light switches were and turned them on, one by one, hoping that the light would illuminate the store again. But when I went out to the main area, to my dismay, the candles were gone. I ran to the hallway where I had seen them before, and there they were, untouched, as if no one had touched them. It was as if time had stopped and nothing had changed. Panic took hold of me. I checked the security cameras, my heart pounding. I wanted to find some evidence of what had happened. The video did indeed show me seeing the old lady come in and greeting her, but she was not there. At that moment, I was talking to her, but she did not appear on the recording. I was clearly there, talking and gesturing, but there was no sign of him or the candles. The video continued, showing me heading into the storeroom to get more candles. Then, the lights would suddenly go out. An almost palpable darkness would invade the screen. Finally, you could see the moment when I turned on all the lights, and the store would appear normal. It all seemed like a play of light and shadow, a trick of the mind. But I knew there was something more. The next day, I gathered enough courage to tell my boss and colleagues what had happened. When I did, they laughed at me, saying I looked like a madman talking to himself on the video. However, Jose, who had witnessed things like this and told me his own strange stories, looked at me with understanding. "You know you're not alone in this," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "I've experienced similar things that aren't easily explained. Remember about the bird with the cat's head? You're not the first to experience the strange here." The days passed, and with them, the eerie atmosphere of the shop became a constant companion. Every time someone entered, I felt more alert, waiting to see the old woman appear again from the shadows. Her presence had become an echo in my mind, and with each evening, I wondered if I would ever get answers to the mysteries surrounding that place.